Hello, welcome. In today's video, we're talking about Leica Visoflexes. We're talking about vintage Leica Visoflexes, and I'll also cover modern Visoflex, also known as EVF. We put the vintage unit onto the modern Leica M10, and I'll show you how you can do both close-up photography and standard street photography, model photography, all with the same unit. Something I didn't realize, so I was very excited to discover this. Let's get into the video. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. Before we look at a Leica Visoflex, let's see the difference. So this is a Leica M rangefinder camera, and this is a Nikon FE2, which is a single lens reflex camera. By adding a Visoflex unit, which is a mirror box like this, to a M camera, you basically convert your rangefinder camera into a SLR camera. So now my M3 is a single lens reflex camera. You no longer need to use your rangefinder viewfinder. Instead, we're going to look through the prism, in this case, through here, through the mirror, and then through and out the lens. The big advantage of using Visoflex on things like M film cameras is now you're not limited to either the 1 meter minimum focus distance or 0.7 meters minimum focus distance. This particular setup will go to 0.33 meters. We'll talk more about this lens as we get into the video. First, let's cover Visoflex and EVFs. So there are 3 different electronic viewfinders. You've got the M11 rectangular viewfinder, or EVF, now called Visoflex, which gets confusing. You've then got the M10 020 EVF, which is what I'm using on this M10P. You can find those on MPB. And then you've got the original EVF2, which was designed for the M240. It will not work on the M10 M11. See that video. You've then got analog Visoflexes. So in reverse order, the latest one was the Visoflex 3, finishing in 1984, which is only for M mount. That's what you're seeing in this video. You've got Visoflex 2, which is the previous one for LTM and M mount, and then Visoflex 1, the first one from 1951, also M and LTM. So to recap, 3 Visoflex analog ones in yellow, 3 electronic ones in blue. Make sure you get the right one for your camera if you're looking to get one. Today we're looking at the Visoflex 3. So how does it work? So the unit we're looking at today is the Leica Visoflex 3. And you can tell this because you've got 3 dots on the side and this lever. It works the same in most principles to the Visoflex 2. But this lever means you don't need to kind of lock on like you would with a normal lens. You merely press the Visoflex onto the camera like that, make sure it's flush, and then give it a wiggle and it clicks into place. To give you more details on the unit itself, if I take the front off, with the lens removed, if I flip the mirror back down, there you can see the mirror, which works exactly the same as our Nikon camera we have here. You've got 3 settings. The yellow setting works the same as an SLR. As you release the shutter, it flips the mirror the same as it would on an SLR. If you're doing long exposure shots, you're better to use the black setting. It's more dampened. And now it releases the mirror much more slowly, if you see here. And that should give you less vibrations. Red, which is mirror lockup, which is what I would use if I'm using it on, say, a Leica M10. You'll see that coming up. You can then move your screw adjustment so it lines up with your shutter release button, and it lines up perfectly. Normally you'd have your Visoflex mounted onto the tripod like so, not the actual camera, because then it balances your setup. And then on the top of the camera, if I remove this, it's a little bit like using a Hasselblad or something with a waist level viewfinder. So I'm pressing the button to remove it. And as you can see on the top, we have a ground glass, the same as, say, a Hasselblad or anything else, with a little dot in the center. And then you can get different finders. So you can get 45-degree mirror finder like this, prism finder. You can get vertical finders. This is 4 times magnification. The vertical chimney finder is 5 times magnification. So that's normally my preference. If we put this onto a digital camera, so push the lever down to remove. As I say, you want to get the version 3 with the dots and the lever on if you're going to be using this on a digital camera. So here's my M10 converted to M10P. Line it up, put it on like so, make sure it clicks. Now with digital, I've got the benefit I can either use the chimney finder or prism finder and look through the mirror box itself, or I can lift the mirror up by putting it into the red mode, red dot. And then if I attach a modern EVF, this is around 020 EVF designed for the M10, I can now use this and bypass this. So I still get the benefit of close focus, but I don't need to now use the slightly slower to use analog style prism finder. This is how I was using this for most of the photos you're going to see in this video. As you see on the front, it's a Leica M mount. So in theory, you're thinking, if I buy this, I can attach all my M lenses and everything works great. Yes and no. If you attach an M lens, I have a 50mm here, touch it like so, and then just look. So notice how much distance the lens has been moved away from the film plane, which is here. Here's a Nikon camera as to help explain it. So I've fitted this Nikon SLR with extension tubes. This has moved the lens from being attached here to moving it away. And by moving any lens away from your film plane, you're going to increase the magnification of your final photo. And it's greater the shorter the focal distance. So if you notice the distance, we've moved the lens away from the body due to the mirror box. This is now going to be a higher magnification, much higher magnification than it would be normally. For the 50mm lens, I was trying to measure it with my hand, that far away from the camera, because the lens is so far away from the body. So it's very, very magnified. Now if you put a longer lens on, let's put on a lens like 135 f4. With the longer lens attached, you have less of a dramatic effect from putting the mirror box between the lens and the body. So now I think it'll probably be slightly off screen, but I think it's going to be about 40 centimeters maybe. And to do this, I'm setting the lenses to infinity. So this is the furthest possible I can get away. So the 135, I have to have the camera literally like this far away to be able to see it. And there you can see, if I line it up, there you can see how far away you need to be. Much further with a longer lens. Now the problem with this setup is if you put normal lenses onto a Visoflex, you get close-up focus, but you don't get infinity focus. Now there's one lens which bypasses this problem, and that's the lens we'll talk about in today's video. Before we do that, let's quickly cover lens heads and short lenses. So if we go back to our example, if we use a 90mm lens, if we attach it directly to the camera, we'll have infinity focus. If we attach it by the Visoflex, you now lose infinity, but you can do macro. Now for certain old lenses, you can actually unscrew the front of your lens and then attach that via an adapter, which will allow you to have infinity focus and normal kind of 1 meter to infinity range, as you'd see on this particular lens, which is the 90mm f4 Elmar. So all you need is the correct adapter to fit your lens to the Visoflex. In this example, this is the adapter used for a 90 f4. You can see both added together. The first bit is your lens head, the second bit is your helicoid. This was particularly popular for 90mm and 135mm Leica lenses. The lens we're talking about today is the Leica Elmar 65mm f3.5. It's Leica M mount, but it's specially designed for Visoflex units. This is one of few lenses which will give you both infinity focus and close-up focus. It focuses to 0.33 meters. It's got a helicoid like here, and then it's got a head that goes on the end. So the closest I can get is, that's 33 centimeters. So again, the detail fills the screen. But the benefit is, if I move this back, I can now get infinity focus, so then you can do all normal types of photography. And with that, let's now get on to the rest of this video. Okay, so let's look at some real photos. For close-up photography, it will depend on your lens. The lens I'm using is the 65mm, which gives me SID 3mm close focus distance, unless I add a close focus adapter, as you can see here, between the Visoflex and the lens itself. That allows me to get even closer, which is also done by using things like macro bellows as seen here. So here's some examples with a 65mm, no extra extension tubes. All of these photos are shot between 33 centimeters and probably, I don't know, 60 centimeters as a rough guess. No extra equipment needed, and I love how close you can get with this setup. Now I know a lot of you may want to do close-ups but don't like the idea of buying an additional Visoflex unit. Do not worry, check out my previous video on close-up adapters for various Leica lenses. Okay, next, portraits. So all the photos you're going to see coming up are shot with the 65mm Elmar on the Visoflex on the Leica M10P. I've not yet developed the film yet, so any film photos will come in a future post. Excuse the room background mess. This was during photo shoots in the Czech Republic. I went with 2 patrons and we had 2 models each day. You can see the results with RAW only and then RAW plus preset. I was actually adding my Leica M262 presets just to mix things up a bit, but here you can see RAW only, and I really like the colors from this particular lens. It's a nice lens for portraits. Now what about telephoto lenses? So as you know, on a Leica M camera you're limited to a maximum focal length of 135mm, but Visoflex system does give you access to longer lenses, 200, 280, 400, 560, etc. And these are called telet lenses. So you can use all of these lenses on your M camera with a Visoflex adapter. Okay, back to photo shoots. So here you can see I was using the chimney finder. It's so nice to use it because it's like using an SLR camera or mirrorless camera. You get to see the real depth in your actual pictures real time rather than kind of having the delayed gratification that you normally get from a rangefinder camera. This lens works really nice shooting it into the light. You can see it's kind of a brighter sky behind our model here. And so shooting into the light, you get that kind of slight drop in contrast in the top right hand side, and it works very well for portraits. It's not the sharpest lens wide open at 3.5, but as you stop it down, it gets sharper, and wide open it's very flattering for female portraits, which is what I'm shooting most of the time. I did try the lens on these kind of shoots at f3.5, f4, maybe even a few at 5.6, but probably mostly at f4, just to give you an idea. And all the photos you're seeing are raw from the Leica M10P, no presets added. If you want presets, I can put a link below to my usual Mr. Leica presets. I do like to mix and match my presets, so what you're seeing, the edited photos are actually edited with my M262 presets, even though I shot with the Leica M10. Here again, you can see the close-up ability and the nice haze from shooting this lens. There's an action shot with Toby in action. I'll try and post them to Instagram as soon as I get a chance, but if you're interested in model photography, I can also put a link below to my ebook. The ebook gives you everything I know about model photography that I've learned over the last 10 plus years in 50 easy to read chapters, all you need to get started. Okay, next let's look at the lens itself, the Leica Elmar 65mm f 3.5. So here you can see some raw sample photos just to give you a rough idea of the rendering of the lens, the kind of the bokeh, the colours, things like that. You can get really nice bokeh, but you would need to be quite close to your subject. You can get really nice subject background separation, as you can see from that shot with Thomas. And also, as mentioned earlier in the video, infinity focus, even though this lens goes as close as 0.33 centimeters. The colours from this lens are really nice. It gives a nice warm tone, especially if you're shooting in the evening, and a nice glow around lights, as you saw there. These are unedited raw files, and I really love the colours. I had Thomas and Toby both as my models after our photo shoots, so I could keep testing the lens. Okay, we also went to Prague, so let me show you more real-world example use of the Visoflex on the M10P during a first photo shoot, and then we did some street photography after. This is a Ukrainian model that happens to be in the city, who we know from body paint events, if you've seen those videos. And so it was really nice to do some kind of street portraits and just get a different use from this lens. I had lots of lenses with me, but I just couldn't stop putting the 65mm lens back on. I like the separation. Now, if we go on to street photography, this is exactly the same for street photography. So I should have been using other lenses, if I'm honest, because I should have been testing other lenses during this trip. But I just kept putting the 65mm lens back on. The guys I was with were kind of laughing at me because I was addicted to the 65mm compression, and just the rendering of this lens I found so nice. It's particularly nice when there's a bit of haze in the air and it gave really nice fall off. The colours are kind of saturated but not too in your face. And then if you add like one of my Mr. Leica presets, you can get really nice looking images. These black and whites are just with, again, just a quick preset added and job done. Really happy with how they look. My other lenses are 35mm, so I kept picking 65mm because it really suited the looks that I was seeing. I wanted that bit more compression that a 65mm gives that I couldn't get from 35mm. The beauty of this particular lens is, as we know, it goes close, and so you just can do everything with one particular lens. And you also have the benefit of looking like a complete wacko in the street. There's my Visoflex on the top, and then both the chimney finder and the electronic viewfinder. We managed to get down to the water where there's lots of birds just before it's time to fly home, and I'm really happy with some of these photos. I like the timeless feel, and it just shows this lens can do literally anything. So in summary, this quirky setup from the 50s onwards would be slow and clunky to use in most cases, but if you put an EVF on a digital camera, that can be to M240, M10, M11, you can actually use it as a walk around setup, as I was using throughout this video. I didn't use the 45-degree finder because it would block where the EVF would go. So I had the chimney finder, which meant I could use either the chimney or the EVF both at the same time because they don't kind of hit each other. I find it much easier to focus the chimney finder with the 5x magnification, and I do the 45-degree prism finder with only 4x magnification. The digital, as I say, it's super simple. You can just use the EVF. If you've not got an EVF, you can just use live view. But the main kind of benefit for me is not so much for using it on digital, although it is amazing because now I can do all my product shots with a digital M camera, which previously I'd have to use my Leica SL with a Light Lens Lab close focus adapter. Now I can use this, and then the big advantage is now I can use cameras like my Leica M3 and actually do both close-up photos and normal photos, all with the same unit. I did shoot a roll of film with this setup already. It's not yet developed, so when I get it developed, I'll include that in another video. With that, if you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button. As always, a huge thanks to my amazing patrons, and hope to catch you in the next video.